All right. So I want everybody to just close your eyes and take a nice big deep breath. I am here only to be truly helpful. I am here to represent him who sent me. I do not have to worry about what to say or what to do because he who sent me will direct me. I am content to be wherever he wishes, knowing he goes there with me, and I will be healed as I let him teach me to heal. Amen. All right, so we are going to go back to what we were working on last week, which is the section called The Hero of the Dream. And it's on text 585, if somewhere in there. I'm not sure which paragraph we'll be working on. It might be the page after that. And it's chapter 27, section 8, if anybody needs to look at it from that perspective. But before we start reading, I thought I would reread what I began the class last week with, because this is Ken's kind of description in one of his tapes of what the body really represents. And I think that, you know, this whole idea that we are going to be talking about today is a concept that's extremely difficult for any of us to grasp. I mean, even if we grasp it intellectually, it's extremely challenging for us to live from this place. So he says, all the body is the embodiment of the thought of the ego. So the body is literally the outpouring, I guess you could say, the film, or excuse me, the picture on the screen via what the film is that's in the camera. So it's an expansion, I guess you could say, of what the ego is. That is all it is. And understand the ego is literally considered to be a thought system of the opposite of who we are when we're aligned with love. It's the thought of the ego in a body, in flesh and form. We are now that. We have now we're no longer the mind, we're now the body. And as I mentioned a few minutes ago, when we projected into the world, we drew a line here so that we would not remember what was above that line. All I know is I popped into this world as an innocent victim, and those are the facts. End of story. Till we find the Course, and the Course tries to help us understand, before you popped into the world, something already set up the storyline that brought this forward. Just like when we chose these two, and we had the choice between these two, and we chose this, we left behind a connection of love in our mind. So we had this mind, it had lots of guilt, sin, and fear. We couldn't tolerate it, so we popped into the body as an innocent victim, and everybody else is our problem. The Son of God's awareness is in the world as a body. Again, all of our awareness is in the world and in our body. And that's why when the Course describes something like heaven, we don't really have a lot of information to draw upon, because in truth, all I've known since I popped into this body was the world, the rules of the body, and what goes on here. But instead of seeing guilt, sin, and fear within me or in my mind, I now see it all around. So that's the dream. There's a character called me, and all this is happening outside in the world, and I'm an innocent victim of that. I didn't ask to be born, first of all, and I certainly didn't ask all this stuff to pop up in my life and my world. The reason I'm afraid is because of all the sinful people around me, all the sinful things around me, the sinful weather, which will attack me, the sinful president who makes decisions that will attack me, the sinful microorganisms or viruses that will attack me, not to mention all the sinful people who will do sinful things to me. So we've set up a scenario because we were afraid of the guilt, sin, and fear, or not afraid, but we were so uncomfortable with the guilt, sin, and fear in our mind. We had to get rid of it so that we could maintain our separation, our individuality, and our specialness But I could play the part of an innocent victim, blame everything on something outside of myself. And as we talked last week, even the thoughts that pop up in your mind, how many times do these thoughts pop up in your mind and you don't even know where they come from? And they can be hurtful thoughts about yourself or somebody else. They seem to be random. They just pop up. Well, if you are aligned with your true mind, thoughts of attack and guilt and unkind thoughts towards yourself, they literally wouldn't show up, because they're coming from a mind totally different than the mind of the ego. So we're really being asked to look at all the things that encompass our world and start to question, okay, if I wrote this script, where does the problem lie? Does the problem lie in the people that are around me that are doing things I don't like? Or is it the script writer, which is the ego, or the identification with the ego? So the purpose is to keep us mindless, rooting us in the world of bodies. And obviously we're all very focused and concentrated on our body and the effects of our body and the situations that occur around our bodies. And as long as I believe I am a body at the mercy of other bodies, I will never, ever occur to me that I am a mind, which means I am now living in a perpetual state of mindlessness. So as long as I've left my mind, basically this is my mind, I've left it to come play in the illusion, I now no longer know I have a mind. I'm totally mindless. I'm an effect of the world, and all I have to work with is manipulating the world to make my little world a little bit more comfortable, and so that I can survive it. So if I am not a mind, I cannot change it. And that's why we're being asked to rise above the battleground, because as long as I'm within the dream, I can never access my mind to be able to change it. All I've got to work with is the perimeters of the bubble of the dream. If I cannot change my mind, the original decision for the ego is preserved forever. And of course, the whole purpose of this setup was to keep us mindless. And I know I've mentioned this many times, but Ken would often say one of the most important aspects of the Course is that we now know we have a mind, and that we can change that mind if and when we're ready to change it. Before, that wasn't an option. All I had to work with, it's almost like if you go into an art class and the teacher gives you, let's say, pastels, you can't make an oil painting. You've got to do pastels. You can create that picture based on the pastels. You can't do an oil painting, okay? It's not available to you with the materials that we have to offer. And within the context of the dream, we can manipulate the dream. We can, as Marianne Williamson used to say, we can push the chairs around on the Titanic and arrange them differently, but it's still going down, okay? And the answer doesn't lie here. We really literally have to rise above the battleground to connect with the possibility of a change of mind. And if we understand that it's the ego identification in the mind that brought forth the effect called my body, and my body in relationship to the world. And that ultimately, though this is the thought system we identified that brought this effect, we do have another part of our mind that we can now recognize that we can access it when we're ready to access it. So we're not any longer mindless. We may be still very confused and wrapped up in the illusion, but we're not completely mindless any longer. And even if we don't choose to change our mind, the very fact that there is an option of a choice to change our mind is a huge step in the direction of healing. Because before, brain dead, absolutely nothing to choose from. Okay, anybody have any comments about what I just reread?
Yes, Marianne. So the part where the we can change our mind,
yes,
means that we can change it about what the body is for. isn't that what we're changing our mind about, what the usefulness of the body, or what the body is
Well,
being
yeah.
used for a different purpose?
Well,
No.
yes, I would say,
Okay.
think about it. You know, we worked with the puppet. Think about the puppet. When the ego is in line, the puppet is going to be operated by the mind of the ego. When we drop the ego investment and we align with the Holy Spirit, now the Holy Spirit will use that body for a different purpose. Same body, same puppet, but who's operating the puppet? Okay, which puppet here of those two choices is operating? And
right. So
thank you for asking.
can't.
Go ahead.
We can't eliminate the body. We have to use.
This is
so
right.
that's, I think that might be one of the spots where it gets.
Yes.
So it seems like we popped into the world as an ego, and that, you know, that's terrible, and we ought to pop right back out or something. I guess.
Yes, and that's a really good point. This is, in fact, there's a line near the beginning of the course where it says, to pretend the body isn't real is not helpful in the process of undoing the ego. In fact, we really want to do just the opposite. We want to become very in tuned with how quickly we get pulled into the world, whether it's physical pain, some irritation, some upset, you know, the weather's not comfortable for me, whatever it is, because that's showing us that we have aligned with the ego, and that now, if we want, we can make another choice. So it's not about pretending the body's not real, or doing one of these, oh, that doesn't really bother me or upset me, I'll just look over here. And we, of course, know there's many spiritualities out there where I'm going to create a better vision or a better image of what my life is going to look like. And I'm not saying that you shouldn't do those. I'm not saying if that's where you're called that you should experiment with that, but that's really not what the course is saying, because how would I know how to visualize something that is not available in my mind to visualize if I want to be over here? Okay. And again, you know, if you feel inclined to do that, by all means do that, because eventually you'll realize that didn't work either, and that's okay. Better to find out that way than not trust it or believe it. But again, how can I find access to this when I'm in the bubble of the ego that doesn't have that as an option? I literally have to drop the illusion or the connection with the ego in order to find out what the real answer is.
Or to drop your reliance on the body's
right.
Their solutions about things. Just you know, put a little iodine on it, or you know, whatever.
Yes.
Yes.
And again, start with the body. Again, start with the body, because the body's, you know, a big help in the realization of, oh, I just lost my peace. If it wasn't for my body in relationship with the world, I would not know that I lost my peace. In fact, what we actually did was we took the guilt, sin, and fear, as I read a few minutes ago, and we projected it into the world, and then we thought we got rid of it. You know, I'm done with that. It's this person. And then, of course, I became the innocent victim and now blame everything on this character or whatever that happens to be. And now it's their fault that I'm not at peace. But when we turn that around and start to use it for the different purpose, which is, oh, I just got triggered by something that happened in the world. That must mean I'm aligned with the ego. And now I know I have another choice in my mind, and I can choose that when I want. But before, I didn't know that. All I knew was I was the innocent victim. They took my peace away, you know, fill in the line, whatever that happens to be. And if it wasn't for them, I could be okay, which is a total, complete, absolute lie. We're not at peace because we are aligned with the ego. That's the only thing that has ever taken our peace away. Though that character does trigger that memory of this. And so if we use our brother to find our way home, in fact, there's a beautiful section that says our brother is our salvation. Without that, I would never know that I could lose my peace. Because who's going to ask to be healed if they're not experiencing lack of peace? So those triggers are our gift. Not that we like them as an ego, don't get me wrong, they're not ego friendly, but they are Holy Spirit friendly if we use them properly.
And it won't help to try to take their peace away.
Nope. In fact, what you're really doing is feeding more lack of peace into the environment of the bubble.
The whole thing, yes.
Yep.
The toxic environment, yes.
And that's actually a good point as well. And it's a tricky point in the respect that I don't want to make people feel more guilty, but literally we are feeding into this or we're feeding into this. And if you think about it as having two cars, you're either putting gas in this car or you're putting gas into this car. Whether it's, you're hating somebody or you're hating yourself, we're feeding into this and putting gas into this. And when we stop putting gas into this, we're going to put the gas into here. Well, the challenge or the difficulty that we are facing is we've been putting the gas in this tank since the Big Bang. And, a little sprinkle once in a while over here. So which one of these two cars do you think is going to run the longest? Obviously, the ego is. And so as we begin to practice the course and we start to intellectually understand some of these concepts, and then we find ourselves not dropping the illusion and spending more time over here than we'd like, it's easy for us to then feel guilty because I haven't chosen sooner. Don't do that. Just remember, if I was out of balance for 6 months and I realize it, I don't need to, smack myself and knock myself off the balance beam. I simply have to stop and go, wait, I was going the wrong way. Stop, line up again, get your balance. That's it. But I know that's not usually the way it works because we're so enmeshed in guilt. But the quicker we can bring ourselves back to the center of balance, the better off it's going to be. But don't judge yourself or hate yourself if you've fallen off again. Just recognize this is part of the practice of learning how to walk across the tightrope or walk across the room as a baby. And that's just the process. And aren't we having fun with it? All right. Anybody else?
You mentioned mindlessness. Would that be like the same? Like if I have my phone and I'm playing on Facebook and all that, is that all the same kind of mindlessness?
Well, not really. That can be an aspect of it, but mindlessness, as it's being explained here, is when we're caught in the dream in any way, we're mindless because we don't realize that I could be aligned with the Holy Spirit. So the Course comes along and says, okay, guys, this is what you've chosen. This is what you've lived for eons of time. There's another way to look at this. There's another way of experiencing this. So if you're, playing on your phone, you can even ask to have the Holy Spirit walk with you as you do that, because it's not so much important what we do, it's who we bring with us as we do whatever we do.
Okay. That makes sense. Yeah, thank you.
Cool. Yep. All right. Anybody else? Okay, I guess not. So what we're going to do is, again, on the Hero of the Dream on page 585, I'm just going to hit a couple highlights of some of the material that we read last week, and then we'll start where we left off. So I'm going to start with paragraph 1. The body is the central figure in the dreaming of the world. There is no dream without it, nor does it exist without the dream in which it acts as if it were a person to be seen and believed. Okay, so we come back to the picture of the hero. The body is the central figure in the dreaming of the world. Well, we all know at night when you have a dream, you're in the dream. In your daytime dream, you're in the dream. Who's the main character in the dream? Moi. Okay, yeah, we side with people at times, and we say, well, we're all Americans against the Russians or whoever else. But even in that, if we break that down into smaller increments, nobody in America gets along any better than we do versus Russia or any other country. So it's like this is the central focal point of I'm an innocent victim of circumstances beyond my control, and it's a dream about me, always about me. And as you're practicing this, as you're observing it, remember to think of it where we are right now as a practice of observing how enmeshed I am in this illusion. Not from a place of, oh, I should be with the Holy Spirit, I should ask for the Holy Spirit, or any of that kind of stuff. Just simply the recognition of, wow, look how involved I am with this body. You know, I need to have the temperature set at the right degree. My food has to taste a certain way. I have to, you know, I got to find a chair that feels comfortable. And just examine those kinds of things and how meshed in the central character called me, and how I'm affected so quickly and so easily by all the things that transpire around me and through me. So there is no dream without it. So, you know, you can close your eyes and, you know, not see your body, but you can still feel your body. You experience your body. If nothing's happened just because you closed your eyes. And there is no dream without it. If I disappear, this dream collapses. What's the need of a dream if the character is no longer in it? You know, if you go to pay money to go see a movie and they told you your favorite actor or actress was in it, and you go to the movie and they're not in it, well, you want your money back. What fun is that? I signed up for this because I wanted to see that particular character. Well, we signed up for this to be the main character called me. All right, so it takes this, wait a minute, there is no dream without it, nor does it exist without the dream in which it acts as if it were the person to be seen and believed. And that's something that Ken would always sort of jokingly say, we don't care how we're special, as long as we're special. And we will be especially, whether it's especially good or especially bad, as long as I'm special, different, and individual, and I'm right. That's all we really care about. Those are very important aspects of this separated character or the central figure in the dream. It takes the central place in every dream, which tells the story of how it was made by other bodies. Again, we are born from other bodies. In fact, here, let me mute because we got a phone ringing here.
Sorry.
Okay, all right. You know, we didn't ask to be born. I'm literally an innocent victim of my parents because I didn't even ask to be born. But from this storyline, that's absolutely not correct. But from the perspective of the way the ego's been set up, it's very correct. All right, so we're going to be born of other bodies, born into a world outside the body, we live a little while and then we die to be united in the dust with other bodies dying like itself. So basically Jesus is sharing with us the real basic concepts of what it is to live as this body in the world. In the brief time allotted it to live, it seeks for other bodies as its friends and enemies. Because again, I can't exist as this individual without the special love and special hate relationships that keep this whole thought system very vital. Its safety is its main concern. Its comfort is its guiding rule. And you know, I think we all can certainly relate to the understanding of that. We want to be comfortable. We want to be safe. We want people to be nice to us. We want, you know, good things to happen to us in our world. That's just the whole makeup of the story. And of course, it's a dualistic storyline. So that ain't never going to happen, as they say, because it's set up that there's good and there's bad, there's highs and there's lows within the realm of this storyline. All right, so I'm going to move on to paragraph 2. The dreaming of the world takes many forms because the body seeks in many ways to prove it is autonomous and real. And the word autonomous is self-governed. I am self-government, I'm in control. And again, even our society supports this concept of, well, as a little child, obviously, you have to be taken care of by your parents, but your goal is to grow up and take care of yourself. We never talk about having the Holy Spirit run through us as this individual. I've got to take care of things. I've got to make sure things get done and places get had and whatever. And so again, that's a big part of the setup before we popped into the world that we experienced. And it's almost like you could say it's a no-brainer. We knew nothing of anything like that because this is how it's always been. We never had to question it. That's how it is. All right, paragraph 3. The body's serial adventure from time of birth to dying are the theme of every dream the world has ever had. The hero of this dream will never change, nor will its purpose. Though the dream itself takes many forms, it seems to show a great variety of places and events wherein its hero finds himself, itself. The dream has but one purpose taught in many ways. So in other words, obviously, I'm the hero of my specific dream, but every single individual on this planet has a little different dream. Even though there's parts of the dream that are similar, we each have a little different storyline. And that's purposefully done because then I can judge somebody else because their storyline isn't as good as mine. Or I can hate somebody else because their storyline is not better, is better than mine. So that's part of the trap of duality as well. So this one single lesson does it try to teach again and still again and yet once more that it is cause and not effect. So in other words, when I am the character in the dream, I think I caused the experiences in my world. If I'd have said something different, that outcome would not have occurred. But in truth, I'm the effect of the dream of the ego, and this is the cause. I am not the cause. That choice for the ego is the cause. And we often refer to workbook lesson number 5 that talks about the idea of I'm never upset for the reason I think. Because I always think I'm upset because of something, some scenario, some situation in my world. Horse is saying, no, that's the effect. The cause is you chose for separation. And the answer, of course, is to drop separation and choose for love. So it goes on to say, and you are its effect and cannot be its cause. So when I realize I'm not the cause, then we got a whole nother storyline going on here. All right, so paragraph number 4. Thus you are not the dreamer, but the dream. Okay, so we literally are the dream as an effect of choosing for the ego. So you wander idly in and out of places and events that it contrives. That this is all the body does is true, for it is but a figure in a dream. And again, if you take some of us are older and we used to go to class things where they'd have a projector and you could actually see the wheel, okay, and it would project onto the screen. And we know that everything that we were going to see that day is on that reel. It's already been pre-planned. It's already set. Even though I don't see it all right now. Well, our dream has already been set. And we are now reliving that dream. In fact, there's a place in the course where it said that when we had that moment of separation, every single experience that ever could be happened in that same moment. And then we pick one of those experiences and we live it as though it's happening today in the realm of time and space. All right, so the instant that he sees them as they are, they have no more effect on him because he understands he gave them their effects by causing them and making them real. So what he's trying to help us to lead us to grasp, live, understand is that I am an effect and not a cause. The cause is the choice for the ego. And the only place where the answer or the healing can occur is when I can access the part of the mind that is chosen for the ego and realize there is now another choice. All right, so we're going to move on to paragraph 5, where it says, no one asleep and dreaming in the world remembers his attack upon himself. And what that basically means is when we were aligned with God, And then we chose to separate. We had to leave this behind when we chose for this. So we not only attacked God and killed off our image of God as oneness, we killed off our brother, ourselves as well. Because when we chose this, we left who we are behind, killed, we attacked it so that we could survive in the dualistic, separated space where now I can be God, I can be in control. I'm on the throne, but now there's a me and a God and a me and somebody else. And instead of peace, love, and joy, I get to play in sin, guilt, fear, death, rejection, and differences. And then I blame it on that person or those people or those situations because I'm the innocent victim, don't you know? But we're not. We are very much the ones that chose it. But while we're asleep in the dream and all I can see and experience is what's in the dream, I'm not going to understand that I am literally dreaming this dream. So a great deal of the practice of the course is for us to rise above the battleground where a different choice, a different experience can be had. As long as I'm asleep, I really am or will experience my world as an innocent victim. So line 5, no one believes there was really a time when he knew nothing of a body and could never have conceived the world as real. In other words, all I know is this storyline. I don't recall the storyline before this seemed to appear. He would have seen at once that these ideas are one illusion, too ridiculous for anything but to be laughed away. And when Jesus talks about laughing them away, he doesn't mean, even though like the concept of death is part of this dream, that you make, that you'll laugh when you hear somebody dies. It means you'll become aware that all of this dream is a silly dream that's keeping us from knowing who we are. And when you get that and understand it as it's being presented, why wouldn't you leave this to find love, peace, and joy if we really understood that this is what's keeping me from this? Yes, I see a hand. You have to turn, yeah, there you go.
Yeah, before we were born and like we were babies or infants or in our mommy's bellies, were we at one with the Holy Spirit then?
Nope.
Or our real selves?
Okay, so what Ken would often say, except for a very, very, very few, of which it's probably not worth even having a discussion about, if you pop into the world, it's because you came from this thought system and you needed this experience because this is what you were trying to get rid of your guilt, sin, and fear. So that very common expression of the sweet little innocent baby doesn't cut it in this thought system. If you pop into the world, again, unless you're a high spiritual person who just came back here to help share and help people and whatnot, you came because there's something that drew you here to play in.
So even when we were just a little egg or whatever,
yes,
we weren't aligned with.
There wouldn't have been, I guess you could say, an option to become an egg unless you were coming from this thought system. Yeah.
Okay.
And again, that's something, we got to work with that a little bit because from the time we were very young, this sweet little adorable innocent baby. But, I know you're a parent. We know that baby came out screaming. We know if that baby doesn't get what it wants, it's not a happy camper. And we don't know even what they want most of the time, even if we try. So, a screaming baby isn't a representation of peace, love, and joy. And those are the facts, yes.
Okay. That's the fact. Okay, I can't. You're right.
Yeah.
Got it.
Yes. And he basically would say, no one would come to the ego world if they were in heaven. Or, how do you know if you're over here? You're not over here anymore. And that doesn't mean that your physical body will die when you align to this. It means your mind will be aligned with this. Okay.
Marianne?
Yes, I hear a voice.
It's
Must be
Helene.
me? Yeah. Go ahead.
Yeah, Ken says at one point, we may look sweet and innocent as infants, but it's a con job.
It is so a con job. Yes.
How was the body made?
How was the body made?
We make the body.
Yes, we make, oh, okay, I see where you're going with that. Yes, the Course is very specific. God created what he created, what we did, we made. And the body, again, is flawed. It's gonna die. Nothing dies over here. We made this flawed beginning and ending that occurs within the illusion. It's all part of the bubble of the dream. Birth, we have young and we have old, birth and death, the cycle of this. And again, from the time we were born, this has been the story. We've lived, we've learned, we've seen everywhere we turn.
When I
Everywhere
say,
we turn.
when I say we, I mean the ego, of course.
Well, exactly. But I'm saying as we pop in the world and live as the body, this is the only story we've ever known.
Yes.
Why would we question that?
But Marianne,
Yes.
don't babies kind of perceive everything as their mother and stuff like that? They don't individually perceive people. They perceive like groups of people, or at least that was my understanding. They have that kind of
Right. I understand where you're coming from.
more holistic.
Right. But understand at the same time that baby is the hero of the dream. Feed me, change me. I'm going to scream if you don't get me what I want. That baby is a full-fledged hero of the dream.
Yes, but I'm talking about, its perceptions. Its perceptions seem to be
They
more
will shift
holistic.
and change. Yes. Yeah.
Because we try to get back to the perceptions of a baby as we grow older to try to return to a state of oneness. And a baby seems to have that understanding until it's pulled out of that understanding by, biological necessity and things like that.
Well, but see, the Course would differ with that. I mean, there's a lot of people that say that baby was born sweet and innocent, and it wasn't until the environment did thus and so that made that baby, become more inclined towards its ego. The Course would say that baby would not have chosen to pop in unless it had work to do and needed this experience. It's a very different approach than many other things out there. And that baby came in screaming because that baby, made this agreement and then realized maybe this wasn't such a hot deal.
Yeah, right.
And then we grow even older and then we just go, oh yeah, man, what were we thinking?
Yeah, Marianne.
Yeah.
I love what Ken talks about, that there is a purpose that we come into this world helpless.
Absolutely.
So that we can blame, and we just continue with it our entire lives, so that we can blame everyone for my misery.
Absolutely.
And when, it's incredibly perfect from the ego's perspective to come in here, and I have to rely on somebody to take care of me. I can't survive on my own.
Yes. Perfect setup.
Yeah, perfect setup.
Perfect.
Yeah.
The victim.
Yes.
Victim. Yes, I
Yeah.
come in this world a victim.
Yes. And then of course we choose our parents, and our parents are not going to be the love we're looking for. They're not going to do it my way. They're, and I remember one time Ken even said, if you really think about it, your relationship with your parents, there's usually, we hold in our mind the things we didn't like that our parents did with us or for us or didn't do or whatever. But our parents may have done like 95% of things that were really good. We don't ever look at those. It's that 5% that we're ragging on our parents because they didn't do what we thought they should do. And it's the perfect setup. It's, I'm an innocent victim of you. If my parents had done this different, I wouldn't be suffering thus.
Yes, it is the perfect setup for blame.
Right. And again, this whole concept that I literally was born into this bubble. I had no say of what this bubble was going to even be. But this is saying, yes, you did. You set up this bubble so you could play the part of an innocent victim, take that guilt of you having killed off God and dump it in the world and blame it on somebody else. and our parents, of course, are our number one first opportunity. And then it goes splintering out from there.
Siblings.
Well, yeah, that's, the siblings come next. Yeah. Yeah. Teachers, whatever.
Mhm.
And yeah, and it just continues. And then we keep recreating the same relationships as our parents most of the time anyways. So it's, I need to have something or someone to be the problem. And it doesn't have to be a person. There's lots of things on this chart. It can be literally anything that can disrupt my peace.
Yeah, and it's also the perfect setup for me to have to look outside of myself to get something, because as an infant I have to do that.
Yes.
Or I can't survive.
Exactly. And even as adults, we can't survive unless we have air and water and drink, and we literally cannot survive without it. So the whole setup is I need something from the outside to fill me up so I can be okay.
And also what I criticize my parents of doing, I do the same thing.
Oh, isn't it delightful?
And because I do the same thing, it's still their fault because they're the ones that taught me this.
Yes.
And if only I would have had a mother and father who was very wealthy, and that I would have I'd be very happy person.
Yes. And the beat goes on. Yes.
So then even we're like the ego is there as a judgment machine. Like everything is prone to and needs judgment over it in terms of what is going to go on in the physical. And so then from that, getting all filled up with those kind of judgments, then finally there's time to say, oh, maybe that's not true. Maybe doing things this way is not true. That my judgments are about others and where I belong are not the truth. They're just these responses or these knee-jerk reactions to what the ego is doing with me, or what I'm allowing it to do, or how I'm working through my ego.
Right. And I think, the awareness that the world doesn't work like they said it was going to work is usually what eventually takes us to that moment, like Helen and Bill, where it was like, there's got to be another way. Because we've gone down so many avenues trying to make this world be okay for me, the hero of the dream. That's not working out very well. The world isn't cooperating with me like they said they would. What's going on? I did my part. It's not working. Not working.
But I have a challenge in this world, and I don't have that same challenge with God.
And that's
and if I can beat my challenge, this makes me feel good.
yes.
And I don't have that with God.
Correct. And that's a good point too, Bob, because understand that not only with this concept of the hero of the dream being the center focus, this character wants to stay alive. It lives and breathes to stay alive. And the way it lives and breathes to stay alive is to be an innocent victim. Or in your case, Bob, I want to accomplish things. I want to show the world, look at how good I am. And that doesn't mean you don't stop trying to do things in the world, but just be aware of how I'm being fed off that. And even silly things like, I always get a kick out of the fact that if you're driving and you let somebody in traffic and you don't do it because you want to wave, but if you do it and then they don't wave at you, then there's that little tiny little, well, they didn't even wave at me after I was nice at them. And to be aware of how we want to be acknowledged, we want to be, again, whether it's positive or negative, we don't really care, but I want to be. It's very powerful.
Right, but if somebody cuts me off and that was what I try to do is I bless them.
Right, and now you do. You didn't always do that, I'm sure.
No, I'm sure. and also when I bless them, I have a different attitude.
Yes.
It's more of a pleasant attitude. No, at first somebody cuts me off, I'm going to cut them off, and I'm going to cut them off better than they cut me off.
Yes. Yeah.
And this is all change.
Yeah. And they, you know, that again, that's the process when we realize what value does me cutting them off after they cut me off do. And a lot of this game that is with this world is I'm going to get them before they get me.
And also many times if you watch somebody that cuts you off and you watch them, you'll find that somebody cuts them off.
Yeah, there's that too. Yep. But again, these are all ego games that just get recycled. And we don't even realize we're doing them until that moment where it's like, wait a minute, do I really want to go there again? It's just not valuable any longer. All right, so we're going to move on to paragraph number 6. Let us return the dream he gave away unto the dreamer who perceives the dream as separate from himself and done to him. And I'm going to read this paragraph and then go line by line. Into eternity where all is one, there crept a tiny mad idea of which the Son of God remembered not to laugh. In his forgetting did the thought become a serious idea, both possible, impossible of both accomplishment and real effects. Together we can laugh them both away and understand that time cannot intrude upon eternity. It is a joke to think that time can come to circumvent eternity, which means there is no time. That's a little paragraph with a lot of stuff. Okay, so let us return the dream he gave away unto the dreamer. So we're going to take the dream that we gave away. We gave away our identity as the separated son, and then return it to himself so that we recognize that the dream isn't the problem. The cause or the dreamer is where we've got to start looking. As long as I keep looking on the outside, nothing's ever going to shift or change. And this next line is very important. Into eternity, in other words, we were in eternity, where all is one, there crept a tiny mad idea at which the Son of God remembered not to laugh. And for those of you who have the chart, you'll see the tiny mad idea up here. That was the moment where the Son of God thought, I want to be the creator. You know, God gave me all those gifts, but he didn't allow me to be a creator, and I want to be a creator. So that one son then chose to make another experience in opposition to what this was. That was the tiny mad idea. And as it describes it, again, into eternity where all is one, there crept a tiny mad idea at which the Son of God remembered not to laugh. Because we settled over here, the answer was given. We looked at these two answers. We were afraid of God. We thought he was going to do to us what we thought we did to him, which was kill him off so that we could exist. So our choice was, we're going to remain separated, close the door to God. Okay? And at that point, the Son of God remembered not to laugh. The Son of God took this seriously. It's not that we had this choice or the tiny mad idea, the thought of the tiny mad idea. It's that we then took it seriously. And we began to live as though it were a fact.
I have a question.
Yes, yes.
When the Son of God remembered not to laugh,
Yes.
and he took that seriously, this is when the ego was born. He went to sleep.
Yeah.
And that was a part of his dream.
Correct.
The ego.
Yes.
But God doesn't sleep.
Correct. And he knows.
Why would the sun go to sleep?
Because when the Son chose to separate, he took on the total opposite of what the attributes of the Father are. The Father doesn't sleep, the Son sleeps. The Father only believes in eternity and oneness. The opposite is death and birth and time. The total opposite of what this is.
But that's part of the dream.
Yes, and the dream is made up of that thought system. You know, we read that one, I can't remember exactly what it was, something to the effect of what we project onto the screen or onto the world is a reflect or a projection of what the mind is made out of. And the mind is made out of the opposite of what oneness is. And we basically projected it into the world, so then we can focus all our time and energy on the world, that way keeping us mindless, so that we won't remember that there was another choice, because I'm too busy running around and chasing stuff of the world. Does that help?
Well, the ultimate thing to me is that once he wakes up, which is supposedly he has already done,
Well, I would
Go ahead. There is no us.
Absolutely correct. But the point being is, okay, whichever one of these thought systems we identify with, we become in our experience. Okay, we became this experience, though this experience does not really exist because we identified with it, we accepted it as reality, and we closed the door to this one. If you, from now on, as you read parts of the Course, you will hear Jesus say many places, it now seems, or it now appears as though there are two choices. In truth, there's only one, because only one is true. But to the degree we invest in this, at that time, it will appear as though there are two, of which one of them we think is real, and the other one we have no idea what it's about. So it seems like, though it's not really, we have to start with where we seem to be and seem to accept that we are, and then walk backwards to the alignment with what really is. And we can, we can all sit here and say, this is a dream, it's not real, but that's not what Jesus is asking us to do. He's asking us to use the dream that we've set up to recognize how invested we are in the belief of the dream and how hard it is for us to be willing to let it go. I mean, let's just take, an argument with somebody you like, and in the midst of that dream, if I walked up and whispered in your ear, Don, just drop it, it's not real. Well, probably not likely to happen, because we are so enmeshed in the stickness and the belief system that this is real. Dropping it isn't in my forte today. That takes great practice to come to the point where I'm in the midst of a conflict, and then all of a sudden that awareness of, wait a minute, you could choose differently will occur to us. It's not the natural flow, because this is set up to be kill or be killed. And it's in, just like Rose was talking about how we were born into this world as an innocent victim, we were also born into this world as a kill or be killed machine.
But we're the effect of the
As
dream that the Son of God is having.
Correct. Yes. Yes.
So how much do we have in the ability to say what we can do or can't do?
Not much. as the Son of God identifying with this, when we come to the point where we become more aware, and the whisper, I guess you could say, of that memory in our mind that keeps calling us home starts to come to the surface, because we've allowed some of the solidness of this to disappear. And you'll have those moments where in the midst of something you will become aware of that other choice, and you can choose it or not choose it, but there is an option now versus not having an option before. Which takes, where we are, great practice, not because it's real, but because we have invested it so long.
I think fear has a big thing to do
with
it.
And fear, well, yeah, definitely fear.
Because you're afraid of not being who you are. You think you are.
True. And you know, the reason we started this in the first place was because we were afraid of the love of God. Do you think after pouring all this on there, that's made it easier? Not likely. But when we get to that moment where we finally realize, you know, nothing here is working, that's when our willingness to start to shift that awareness starts to occur. But it's an upward battle from there. Just having that awareness, oh, there must be another way, doesn't make this an easy experience. You know, in the, I think it's in the teacher's manual, there's this, well, maybe it's a workbook lesson, I'm not sure, whatever, where it talks about different types of relationships in the world. And one relationship would be just a fleeting moment. Maybe you see a child in an elevator and you would smile at them and share the love of God by that smile. Another relationship would be with people, you know, maybe school buddies who you'd walk home from school with, and that would last for X amount of years. And then it goes on to talk about relationships that are lifelong relationships that are really challenging. And it said these are perfect relationships to practice this, but it could take you a lifetime or more to heal them. Because just because I'm aware now a little bit more doesn't mean I'm ready to jump over here. I'm still addicted to this. And we all know that if somebody's addicted to, you know, cigarettes or alcohol, you can logically know this isn't good for me. I should stop this. You know, I could be hacking away and still smoking the cigarette. But there is this awareness of, I want it, but I'm so addicted to this, I'm not able to let it go yet. And so it takes a little practice for most of us. A lot of practice for most of us. That help?
Sort of.
Okay, we'll keep working with it, Don.
Yep.
All right, so into eternity, where all is one, there crept a tiny mad idea, which the Son of God remembered not to laugh. And Ken would often say, if we just remembered to laugh at that moment, the purpose of the world, the purpose of the illusion would have been done. There was no reason for it. But to the degree that we wanted that tiny mad idea to be, because we want to be an individual, we want to be special, we want to be in control, we decided thus. In his forgetting did the thought become a serious idea and both possible of both accomplishment and real effects. So again, in our experience, it came to be serious and, let's see where to go, both accomplishment and real effects. So in the experience, this appeared to happen. I mean, there's nobody in this group that doesn't believe the illusion is real and that I'm real and the people in my life are real. I did it, yay, I overcame God. And that's literally what that ultimately means. And Bob was kind of joking earlier about the ideas, you know, I like to be right. I like to be the leader of the pack and all that kind of stuff. And what that really means is I don't want God to be in charge. I want to be in charge. And we all are playing that game, whether some people are more aggressively doing it in ways that appear more front running in our even subtle ways. We are constantly playing this game out of, I want to be in charge. So don't think because you're really nice that you're not pulling this off too, because you are. So we really believe we did it. We pulled it off. I exist as a separated son, and my whole bubble of my illusion is my reality. He goes on to say, together we can laugh them both away and understand that time cannot intrude upon eternity. You know, and if you even think about that statement, how could something intrude on eternity and make it different? It can't. But when we've accepted the separation and the illusion as real, we've stuck with this story, I guess you could say. And we've dismissed the story of eternity and all the aspects that come along with that. It is a joke to think that time can circumvent eternity, which means there is no time. And again, we live in a world of time. Just think of all the ways time has an effect on us. Morning, night, you know, the calendar, how old I'm going to be when I die. You know, I'm 3 years old. Yay. Now I can walk across the street. Whatever. Time is totally enmeshed in this thought system. And yet he says there's no time. Well, how can I, within the belief system of the bubble of separation, even imagine an experience without time?
It's time and space.
Time and space, absolutely, and form. The
Lots
whole
of time.
complex.
Lots of times when we went on trips and drive across the country, that I would think how wonderful it would be if I could just think of myself being there, and I wouldn't have to go through all of this.
Yep. Or get the transmitter on the Star Trek where you could just zap yourself over there. Yeah. But we actually, on some level, love the challenge of doing it this way, Bob. Even though I could say, "Well, wouldn't that be great if I could do that?" And I'm with you. Let's make one of those. Right.
Well, now we can do it over the airwaves and see things over some kind of waves that are going on. That is a reality,
Yep.
A new and more exciting and more compelling reality of the world. And get lost in that concept of how we are doing it better. We're much better than, you know, the savages from a long time ago and stuff like that.
Yes. Well, and that's, you know, it does appear that way. You know, I mean, they hardly had anything, but they were much more in tune with the world. And now we have pollution, and we have this, and we have that, because you know, and we have plane crashes, and it's like though we continue to appear to progress, with the progression comes a dualistic thought system where there's always going to be a downside with every seeming step forward that seems to be an upside. And I'm not, again, saying that we should not continue moving forward in progression in the world, but be observant of every single step forward has the opposite to every step we take. And ultimately, there's an answer of the Holy Spirit with every step we take as well. Go ahead, Andrea. Sorry.
Just that there's all this balancing that seems to be going on. Well, so-and-so said this, but then this other person said that, and all the stories around all those things. It seems to that until we become disillusioned by that conversation about how this is good but that's bad, and you know, just until we get dissatisfied and you know, just really confused and irritated by those kind of conversations, listening to the same, you know, this or that conversation, then we might entertain the idea that there's another way, and then here comes the Course to tell us, well, yes, and so give this a try, which is, you know, really saved my life, meaning gave me a reason, an understanding, you know, like, okay, then, oh wow, I could try this instead. But until that happens, and I guess, you know, to be disillusioned with the world is a good thing, and it doesn't necessarily just lead to Alzheimer's. It could lead to some, you know, understanding something spiritual and getting the truth and having a taste of what God really consists of.
Yes, and you know, Ken again would often say it is oftentimes people that have come to that edge where, you know, the world just, the answers aren't here. And I think there's even a line in the Course where it talks about the idea that for many that will take them to suicide or something, because they can't find the answers in the world, and the only escape as they see it is through that. And we're fortunate enough that we found the Course that is offering other choices or other ways of handling it.
Yeah, to find out how you can laugh again is quite
yes,
well, it's just to be able to laugh at yourself is absolutely that moment, that present moment laughter of, oh, oops, look at that. It is very, and it's immeasurable. Like, you don't know how great it is, or but that moment is always a miracle.
Yes. And it's so beautiful when you come to moments in your life where you can look at your response to a situation and had that been 5 years ago, I would not have responded with a lightness to that situation. I would have been a basket case. And so the awareness of, working with this course is taking me to a totally different place. And it's a much more comfortable place to be than the one I was in before.
That there's sometimes when there's things happen, like a bunch of bad things happen all at one time, why sometimes I step to one side and I look at it, and then I laugh and say, this is totally ridiculous. Look at all these things happen right in the row.
Yep. Well, and I think this whole scenario that we're living in, under, around, whatever you want to call it, with the with the virus and all the repercussions that have taken place, I mean, to even put it in the box of, well, thank goodness this is a dream, is I think helpful, because it's just so out there and so bizarre, and there's no nothing to hold on to resolve as we normally try to be controlling in our life and our world. It's just like that was all wiped off the slate.
Marianne,
Yes.
what also emerged at the same time is this cancel culture where people want to replace the Star Spangled Banner with a different song, and they want to tear down statues. And when I was younger, I probably would be defending some of these statues, because this is just a total attack on basically what we consider ourselves as Americans.
Yes.
Even though that's division, I understand that according to the course, but this is what I mean by it's just very unsettling.
Yes. And I think at the same time, for myself, I see that this whole scenario is really kind of like uprooting so many things, again, not just the virus, but some of the things you just mentioned, Jason. And it's like, it's literally trying to kind of diminish some of the stuff that we set into solid, statues, literally in this case, as a solid statue. This is real, this is value, this is important. And we have challenge and difficulty with a statue. How are we going to do with the rest of the things we've made statues and idols in our world? We're very solidly attached to the principles, the belief systems, the prejudices, you name it, that we've established within our world.
But it's all my picture.
And it's all my picture, and I put it there.
That shows me how screwed up I am.
Yeah. It's all real tricky stuff.
Right.
Yeah. And Jason, again, if we could see, and as you said, I probably would have been more affected even a few years back than I am now, even though I may somewhat still be affected. The development of trust, the section in the work or in the teacher's manual, it talks about letting go of the valueless. Well, I'm glad to get rid of something I don't like. Yeah, you can have that one, Holy Spirit. But what about things I still like, or what I still believe in, or I cherish? And, it continues to go through these paragraphs saying, you keep valuing things that are not valueless. Well, if time and space aren't real, what in time and space could I possibly value that would be more or better than the connection of love?
Right.
Really nothing. But I have to start where I am.
In the dream, at least, historically, what happens is when people go out to history, they tear down the history, they try to rebuild it into something different and fundamentally change you know, societies like communism and, you know, Marxism and all of this sort of stuff. So again, I'm not saying, I don't think it's a good thing, actually, you know, as an American, I don't think it's a good thing. I think it's an attack, actually.
Yep.
Marianne,
Yes. Is that right?
I've been looking at all of that too.
Sure.
And the people that don't want the statue removed and the people that do want the statue removed both think the statue is meaningful and that it has value.
Yep.
So it's just both, it's just the opposite side of the ego coin.
Yep.
And then the other thing that came up for me looking at this is, don't you take my history away.
Well, yeah.
Who am I without my history?
Right.
And I can also apply that to the course. Don't you take my history away.
Yep.
And little by little, it's dropping.
Yes. But it's dropping because you're reaching for something higher.
Yes.
If you reach for something higher, what no longer serves you will automatically drop away. But if we're trying to push it or shove it or cram it in the same box, it'll be very painful.
Yeah, I just think it's helpful to look at how I think I'm my history.
Yes. Well, yeah. And
You know, history, if I may say something too, history, it's some person's interpretation though too. You know, it's interpretation of a certain, I don't want to get too political, but you know, a certain racial group has an interpretation, you know, and it's only things from one perspective, you know? And I agree with the way you said it, Marianne. It's you know, we have certain statues and stuff, but again, it's still one person's interpretation, you know, or the dominant group determines what you know, what happened or what happened. If you went to a sports game and you had and I'm not trivializing this too, but if you had a Browns fan and a Steelers fan, and the Steelers fan would have one interpretation, the Browns fan would have another. Was what's right? Okay.
Yes.
Neither. Right.
Yeah,
That's what I'm saying. It's like the statue thing. Either it's got to go or it has to stay. It's just two sides of the same coin. The ego coin.
Yes.
Because it's really not about the statue.
No, it's what it's Tashara. It's what I have come to the values that I've made of it, and for me, I've seen it's been my suffering.
Correct.
Don't take away the history of my suffering and my pain. Ego.
Excellent.
So a lot of that there for sure.
Absolutely.
Or the glory of my accomplishments and how wonderful I am and what I've done.
Yes, that's a big one too. They all, again, take any of those from any direction, from any facet, and any of those that take your peace away or causing you difficulty, really work with those, because those are some hooks within the context of the bubble of the illusion that still hold value to you. No, don't pretend them away, and don't think, okay, the Course says I have value in this, so I'm just not going to put value in it. No, take your experience, take the hooks that still hold you, and keep asking them to be seen through the eyes of the Holy Spirit, and the rest of it will get taken care of.
Yes, to look.
Don't deny it. Yes.
They hold a tremendous value in looking at them. And we're reminded again and again and again in the Course to look, and not just have the Holy Spirit just take it away, look and
first.
Then a perspective can come where we can laugh. I like to say not so much laugh all the time, but to look at it differently, and to laugh, but to see that it doesn't mean anything. I'm putting the value there. It's my belief. It's me.
Yes.
Putting something that's not there.
Yes.
What is more important to me is my personal history.
Well,
that is really, really valuable.
Yes. And so that's why I always suggest for all of us, Look at the hooks that get you. You know, Bob's is his personal history. Another person is social history. Another person is, you know, whatever. There's bazillions of histories that we all attach to. Look at the ones that cause you to be disrupted in your experience. And again, start with the experience. Man, I'm pissed off at this thing or this situation. How could they possibly, you know, put it all out on the table, puke it all out there. Get upset, get angry, get whatever. And as you then can settle down and remember the course, okay, Holy Spirit, I want to see this through your eyes. I had to tell you what my eyes were seeing first. Don't skip that step. Don't, as whoever that said, don't just pretend it away. Okay, take it, Holy Spirit, take. Really get into the fact that this is how I feel, because this represents the value of me being a hero in the dream. We have to look at the importance of that character and what that relates to in the dream.
And isn't that really what each of us, that's the only thing we really have. If we're going to, in our ego, is how upset we are. That's what we can really hold on to and look at and look at and look at. And nobody can take that away from us.
Yes, there is.
You know, that's the part of the ego that keeps us going and going and going. But then when we finally wear that out, then there's a breath. Then you take a big breath and you go, oh, well, gee, look at that. I'm really invested in that. What is it really doing for me? Just to keep asking all those questions until you're exhausted is what brings you the breath and the pathway to the Holy Spirit is what I think.
Yeah. And I understand that whoever's talking, 1 second, I just want to say one comment. We as an ego live and breathe and survive as an innocent victim. We can say, and I'm going to use Jason's example, I don't like what they're doing with these statues. Those represent my history. That's important. That's valuable. But this is the classroom that's right, that's going to allow Jason the opportunity to feel justified as an innocent victim.
I don't think that it's just about statues. I mean, that's not what I'm talking about. I'm not going to be defending every statue.
Yeah, no, we're not either.
Or, you know, some statues are good, some statues are bad. I don't know which is the difference, but at this point. But
that's okay.
But these people want to change the Constitution. They want to change the fundamental structure of our country and just change it completely. They need to go to a different country and do that, or somewhere else that wants that. There's a lot of people that don't want that.
And are you done?
Yeah, I'm done.
All right. And are you willing to have the Holy Spirit work this out for you? Just asking.
Back to lesson 5. I'm never upset for the reason I think.
Yes. There's the personal part of it too.
Yeah, I gotta get back to that. I gotta get back to that at some point, because I hear you, Jason, and I've had the same thoughts. Oh my God. But once again,
to me, if you were in Cuba, can you do all of this stuff that you're talking about, having groups and talking about freedom? No.
Probably not, but understand the people in Cuba or wherever chose a different dot on that screen. And they had different rules, despite they're all rules of I'm an innocent victim of circumstances beyond my control. The form is going to look different. And I think we even read something today. The forms can be different, and they're going to all be the same in the respect that I'm an innocent victim of circumstances beyond my control. And we can, you know, compare them, look at them back and forth and whatnot, but they're all, when you boil them down, it's I'm an innocent victim of circumstances beyond my control. And if it wasn't for fill in the blank, I could be okay. But as Rose just commented, if this is the problem, not this, I can go back and forth here till I'm turned blue and I'm laying in the dirt and when I die. It's not going to get solved here, because the problem really doesn't live here. The problem really lives there by being that choice, and then the fact that I can choose again.
I know that.
I know you do. I know you do. And you know, we're going to whine and moan and complain, and it's just it's our nature.
But
I mean, literally.
It's interesting to see how real life issues are impacted by the course. You know, because
which we set up.
which we set up, yeah. So it's just
Yes, that's all there is.
I mean, I know it boils down to I'm an innocent victim, and I want to be an innocent victim. So something is going to make me an innocent victim, whether it's a coronavirus or whether it's cancel culture or whether it's, you know, Twitter or, you know, whatever, you know, something is going to make me an innocent victim. But kind of going deeper than just that, because we hear that a lot, you know, we're an innocent victim, you know, so how do you still have function well in the dream and then recognize you're an innocent victim, right? So functioning well in this particular case is perhaps defending your country.
Well,
so,
again, it doesn't mean that you can't go and defend your country in whatever way you feel is helpful, necessary, or whatever. But what it's asking us is, will you walk with the whole hand of the Holy Spirit while you go do that, or will you walk with your ego and do that? And, you know, I'm just going to throw out a real quick example. If your child's playing in the middle of the street, of course you're going to go get your child out of the middle of the street. You don't just say, oh, well, you know, eventually they'll figure this out. You will go and get your child out of the middle of the street. But you could do that ranting and raving and carrying on like a crazy person, or you can very calmly walk out, take care of business, and bring that child back to safety. And it's really the mindset that you do any choices, whether it's something dramatic like that or any other situations in the world. So it's always kind of bringing it back to, oh, who am I walking with? Who am I walking with?
Yeah.
And catching yourself when you're not, and not hate yourself or judge yourself or attack yourself when you forgot. Because most of the time you're going to be forgotten because, you know, that's the setup. You know, this is automatic here. I don't have to work on being kill or be killed or judge or attack. It's my nature as a robot programmed to be here.
When you're asking who are you walking with, you know, let's say you're walking with the Holy Spirit. What does that mean in that particular situation, right? Because
interesting. That's the question.
I just said I'm compelled to defend my country, and what does that mean? Walking with the Holy Spirit, seeing everybody as one and not fighting anybody, or I mean, what are we talking about?
Doesn't take your peace away.
Right. And again, you say to the Holy Spirit, I want to defend my country, but I want to do it from a place of love. Show me how to do that. And then it's not up to you to figure out what that's going to transpire or what it's going to look like. It could mean you say something to somebody. It could mean that, you know, tomorrow you change your mind about the whole story. I don't know what the answer is, and that's none of my business. It is the shifting of your identification of, number one, I'm Jason. I know the answer. I know how to fix the answer, and I'm going to do something about it. Versus, I don't know, but I feel very strongly about this issue. Show me how to come from a place of love, because I don't know how to do that.
And don't forget that you are not Jason. You are much more than Jason.
Sure.
Yeah, because where he's coming from is like a body doing something, not a being.
Yeah.
I'm not looking as a being, and so it's not coming as a doing. It's about an attitude, a way of looking that's shifting.
Yeah.
Not a body doing something.
And not a body that has to be right either, you know, and that's again, that one of the attributes of this character is, I know. You know, do you really know unequivocally that the way you're seeing this experience, though you feel very adamant about it, is the right way for our country to go? Do you know that 100% unequivocally? And the answer is probably not. And that doesn't mean you don't hold on to your guns for as long as you have to.
Okay, I get it.
Yeah. Okay. Anybody else before I go on to the next paragraph?
Well, just that question, that concern of the ego, it is always the starting point of the miracle.
Yep.
That you're not going to get a miracle if you're sitting back thinking, oh, that's what they're doing to me, or that's what's going to happen, or That's how it is. The question comes, how do I do this, God? Or whoever you are that's out there telling me there might be something a different way. And that's where you start. And to have that, that's where you feel the power of disillusionment of the ego. And that's, to me, that's where it starts, where I go, no, I don't like this. I don't want this. And I say, well, and someone else says, well, I do want this. So then the only place you go is where you feel it, and then the Holy Spirit can come in there to you, and it won't come in to anyone else in the same way.
Right. Yeah. And the other thing, kind of along the lines of what Jason was discussing, sometimes we get introduced to new ideas or new concepts or new situations in our life, not necessarily just around the government and whatnot, that initially we totally and completely and absolutely resist with every ounce of who we are. And then eventually sometimes we're forced to walk through them, and then we eventually get to the other side. And then eventually you can look back and go, oh wow, that was wonderful that happened, because that took me to a different place than where I was. And thank goodness that happened, though I would never want to have walked it if I didn't get to the other side. So we really don't know what the unfolding that will take us to a place, a more peaceful experience is going to look like. And we have to be patient as we walk through that and do our best to trust that the answer will lead us in the right direction if we ask the Holy Spirit.
And isn't it interesting too that on this path we're told that this is an undoing.
Yes.
And undoing means that we are shedding. Things are changing and shedding, and we're enlightenment, getting lighter.
Yep. Yeah. It is, and that's remove the blocks to the awareness of love. What are the blocks that I hold in front of love? I don't know. But you just step on one or knock one of my blocks around a little bit. I'm going to tell you where that block
You'll know where it is.
Yeah.
Yep.
And justifiably, even though there may come a time in my life when that block is removed, where I look and go, thank God that was removed, because that block was not for my highest good. But at the time, I always say, in fact, the Course describes the body as a fence wrapped around a small spot. Let me see if I can kind of draw a picture. If this was oneness, and we're basically like these little tiny fences in oneness, and now I think I am that identity of that little tiny thing, and this is the Marianne one right here. I think that's what I am. And I will fight this person because in that aspect of my understanding of what I am, my concept is in opposition to this person's concept, but I know my concept is right. But literally there are no concepts. We're really this. But as long as I'm identified with one of those concepts, and again, that's me right now, if somebody comes knocking my wall down, I am not going to like it, because that's my wall. Don't you be messing with my wall. And eventually, as some of these walls start to fall down and we see a larger, a more encompassing awareness of what really is happening, it becomes a better thing than my limitedness. But while I'm in that limited place, it's very painful if someone comes knocking down my wall. So keep putting it out there. Keep, again, start with what your experience is. Don't mince with that. Really put it down on the line. And then when you're ready to ask to you be guided through what's going on, and walk with his hand so you walk in peace. And again, that takes practice. We're literally programmed robots to kill or be killed. I don't think any of us even have an inkling of an awareness of how deeply seated that programming is. And this programming is, you don't know anything. In one of the very first workbook lessons, Jesus says, look around the room and repeat, this doesn't mean anything, this doesn't mean anything, this doesn't mean anything, this doesn't mean anything. Say, what? but wait, what about this? What about this concept or this statue or this, whatever it is that I pick out of my bag and complain about. And you know, this is diminishing everything that we know, that we value and we think is real. And you know, again, that one section I was talking about where we're talked about letting go of what's valueless, he explains, you know, when things get taken away, it's painful. Don't be taking my structures away. That's my value system. That's my importance in the planet. And then more gets taken away and more gets taken away, and we don't like any of the steps.
Yeah, the next lesson after that one is I have given it all the meaning it has for me.
Absolutely. And, you know, we are very adamant about the value that I've given it on top of that. Because again, it makes me be a thing. It makes me have value. And if you try to take my value away, I'm not going to like you very well. And yet the person that doing that could be your best way home. But in my limited viewpoint and understanding, it doesn't feel that way at all. Okay, let's see. So again, I'm going to read line 5 of paragraph 6. It is a joke to think that time can come to circumvent eternity, which means there is no time. Well, it's a joke to think that the illusion is real, because only eternity is real. But damn, excuse the expression, when I'm in this dream and I believe it's solid and it's real and it's what I am, don't you be messing with my dream, dude. And understandably, because how deeply invested in this thought system we are. All right, on to paragraph number 7. A timelessness in which is time made real, a part of God that can attack itself, a separate brother as an enemy, a mind within a body, all are forms of circularity whose ending starts at its beginning and ending at its cause. The world you see depicts exactly what you thought you did, except that now you think that what you did is being done to you. The guilt for what you thought is being placed outside yourself and on a guilty world that dreams your dreams and thinks your thoughts instead of you. It brings its vengeance, not your own. It keeps you narrowly confined within a body which it punishes because of all the sinful things the body does within its dream. You have no power to make the body stop its evil deeds because you did not make it, and cannot control its actions, nor its purpose, nor its fate. And this paragraph is written by Jesus to help us understand the package we bought when we bought the illusion. So a timelessness, in other words, we were in timelessness, and now that timelessness is gone, and we now made time real. Time is a limit, a part of God that can attack itself. Well, we attacked ourselves when we separated and chose the separation instead of what we really are. I was love. I was, you know, all the beautiful sayings within the Course, what Jesus gave us. And then there's this that I chose myself. This is not the same as that. And I killed this off to be that. A separate brother as an enemy. And then I project the problems into the world and blame one of these characters for anything that, you know, again, it doesn't have to be a person, it can be anything. I blame that on my problem of lack of love or peace because I don't want to let go of my ego. I just want to play the part of an innocent victim. This is heavy duty, deeply seated, you know, Ken, we had a tape set called The Web of Specialness. This is a web, just like a spider that we have entangled ourselves in and accepted and believed and lived in our entire lifetime, and then who knows how many lifetimes before that. And then all of a sudden somebody comes along and says, nope, that's not real, come on over here. No, I'm going to stick to my guns. This is what my reality is. A mind within a body, all are forms of circularity whose ending starts at its beginning, ending at its cause. So what he's trying to help us understand is all of that, no matter how deeply seated, no matter how wrapped tight it is, really ends when we go to the cause instead of the effect. Because the cause is all that really matters. The effect is just what showed up after that cause was established. And then the delightful part, the world you see depicts exactly what you thought you did. What did we think we did? We think we killed off God. So now we have death. So what do? One of our building blocks within the illusion, a world of birth and death, a world of form, a world of time, a world of making my brother be the problem or other things within the world, of a body where thoughts pop in my mind that are less than loving. All that is part of what I believe I did. Because when I was here, all I believe I was an effect of love and all the attributes that love brought. So we literally, by this choice, believed that I am something other than I was before. And I know somebody mentioned earlier, but that's not real. It's not true. And Jesus would say that throughout the course as well. But he also adds to that, though it is not true, never was true, never will be true, it's just a silly dream, you believe it's real. So we got to start with where you believe you are, and then we'll step our way out of that belief system to our truth and our reality. All right, so the world you see depicts exactly what you thought you did, except that now you think that what you did is being done to you. Why would I set it up that way? So I could play the part of an innocent victim. It's not me. I didn't ask for this. It was them. And then we point the finger at whatever specific scenario pops up in this 5 minutes. And somebody else will do the same in the next 5 minutes. Because it's like we're a pointing robot that I've got to be pointing on something outside, because it's not me. I'm the innocent victim. Something, someone else, some scenario is taking my peace away. And the Course is very adamant. If your peace is being disrupted, it does not have anything to do with this. It has to do with the thought system that you have chosen to align with. Much like workbook lesson number 5. I'm never upset for the reason I think. I'm upset because I chose against love. And the answer is, I didn't separate. But to the degree I believe this is real, that's going to run my show. Because that's the way it is. Right, I see something here. All right. So the guilt for what you thought is being placed outside yourself and on a guilty world that dreams your dreams and thinks your thoughts instead of you. I can remember one time years ago, my husband and I were in church and somebody walked in with some weirdo outfit, or I don't know what it was. And my husband whispered in my ear, "Oh, can't believe that person's wearing that." And was kind of making fun of that person. And my first response was, "Oh, I can't believe he would be talking to me like that in church." And then I thought, oh my gosh, I was having that same thought about that same person. He just voiced what I was already thinking. And literally, that's what the world is doing. It's voicing the thought that we hold inside of I'm a piece of shit, excuse the expression, or as Jesus' words say, I think I am the home of evil, sin, and darkness. And if you knew who I was, you would recoil as though I were a snake. Because that's what's really being held within our mind when we identify with the ego. Only this nice little facade called the cute little hero in the dream, me, doesn't know that that's what's hidden underneath the storyline or the wall, because I left that there and popped in here as an innocent victim, blaming everything and everyone for what's really going on in my mind. I mean, somebody talked about the amazement of the ego, and it's the more I study the Course, the more I'm just blown away at how solid this thought system is and all the facets of it that keep us so stuck in it. And, you know, I keep trying to remind everybody that the fact that we are even cracking that little tiny crack in that cosmic egg of the insanity of this illusion is so monumental. If we were looking at ourselves from afar, we would be jumping up and down with thrill and excitement. But the ego is always telling us how we're doing, and it's never going to tell us we're doing a good job. And yet, we're cracking that egg, slow but sure. All right, where were we here? All right. Well, I'm going to read line 4. I don't know where we were, but it's always a good line anyways. The guilt for what you thought is being placed outside yourself. So in other words, I have the guilt in my mind. I place it outside. And now I think it's you, whatever you is, point the finger in any direction you happen to look at. If it wasn't for you, the situation, I could be okay. Except that now you think that what you did is being done to you. So now it's almost like we took what was in our mind, we put it in the mirror, and now we look at the mirror and we stick our tongue out at the mirror and we say, Mommy, Mommy, that face in the mirror sticking their tongue out at me, how dare them? And your mom will say, well, stick your tongue back in your mouth. But we don't get what we're seeing in the world is really what's going on in our mind. And so much of the process of understanding the Course is wrapped around that concept. And it's, you know, some of us have been studying this Course for 35, 40 years, and we've heard this a bazillion times, and yet we really don't fully grasp it because I just know of my bubble, the illusion, that's my reality. And I hear these little words and they go, yeah, that's nice. Okay, look at that idiot in my life. Look at what they're doing to me. And that's how this happens.
Yes, if you watch people and hear people complain about other people, why many times you can think, well, that's what that person does, what they're complaining that they see in other people. So is what they see in other people that they don't like is really what's in them that they don't like.
100%.
And they're projecting it out onto somebody else.
Yes, and if it wasn't something that there was an attraction point within you, it would not upset you. You know, and I give the example many times if I walked up to Bob and said, Bob's 6 feet tall and he has purple hair, Bob would look at me like I was a nutcase, but he wouldn't get upset about it. But if I said something that he believes about himself and he's not comfortable with, that would trigger a response. Whether he showed it or not, it would trigger a response. And we have to really look at the triggers that bring those kinds of responses. Don't push them down and pretend they don't bother us. We need to really bring those up to the surface and examine them with the Holy Spirit to really have them be healed. Because it's literally the world is like a storybook that we're learning how to read. The world is telling us what's going on within our mind. Only in the past, we just kept trying to kill it off. Get away from me, leave me alone. Now we take that up and let it come to the surface so we can examine it and be reminded, I couldn't be upset unless this was a resonance within me.
It's a blessing.
It is truly a blessing, yes. Not only a blessing, but literally the only way out. Because the only way I can find out what's going on in my mind is to watch the triggers that occur or become aware of the triggers that are within me or without me, or how I'm being triggered, or however you want to say that. Yeah. But again, that's not our first reaction. Our first reaction is, I'm a sweet little innocent victim, how dare you? And then fill in the space. Because I was at peace before you said this or did this or acted that way. But the Course would say, no, you weren't. Maybe the moment before that, it appeared that you were at peace. But as long as you're aligned with the ego, you're never at peace. There's just variant of indications of seriousness of your lack of peace. But if you can be triggered by anything, anyone, any situation, any experience, it means you're aligned with the ego. And that's a very valuable piece of information. Because if I don't know it's broken, there is no way I'm ever going to heal it.
And also is what proves that is sometimes somebody could say something that upsets you, And then some other time they can say the exact same thing and it doesn't bother you a bit.
Yes, yes. Or you can be sitting next to somebody that something really just makes you a crazy person and they're perfectly fine with it. Not a big deal because they don't have that attraction point for that specific thing. But look at the places you have the hooks, because those are very helpful places for you to practice what the Course is asking us to do. All right. It brings it, I have to read 5, or let's see, 4 again. The guilt for what you thought is being placed outside yourself and on a guilty world that dreams your dreams. In other words, the word is a dream of the dream you're having. To what? Oh, I'm getting an echo. Where'd that come from? Is anybody else here? No, I know what's going on.
Yeah, I heard it, but it's probably gone now.
Okay, let's see here. Can you hear me?
Yes.
Oh, you can. Okay. I don't know what's going on. Well, okay. Then it looks like we're just about done. Oh, here we go. Whew. All right, then. So the guilt for what you thought is being placed outside yourself and on a guilty world that dreams your dreams and thinks your thoughts instead of you. It brings its vengeance, not your own. So again, they're the ones that are bringing this to my surface. It doesn't have anything to do with me because you see, I'm an innocent victim. That's the whole setup. That's the whole storyline. That's the inner workings of this process. It keeps you narrowly confined within a body, which punishes because of all the sinful things the body does within its dreams. So I would say that's the internal, talk that you have of, I'm not good enough, there's something wrong with me, all that kind of stuff that comes to the surface, where we're constantly punishing ourselves because we're not identified with love. And we don't understand that it's because we've chosen for the ego. We just think these are random thoughts that pop up and we fall into the trap of believing them. And then we lose our peace from even the thoughts that pop up in our minds. And remember, if you were aligned with the Holy Spirit, those words would not pop up and take your peace away. They couldn't, because the thoughts of the Holy Spirit are the thought, capital T, of love. You have no power to make the body stop its evil deeds because you did not make them and cannot control its actions, nor its purpose, or its fate. So again, I'm not only an innocent victim, I'm off the hook because it's not my fault. It's their fault. And it's such an amazingly, unbelievably thick thought system that's kept us duped for eons of time. And now we finally have a way out.
This is why I think that every psychiatrist or psychologist ought to study the Course of Miracles.
And you know what Ken would say to you, Bob?
What?
You study the Course of Miracles. Because he used to talk about that people that found the, I'm picking on you, but not really, yeah, whatever. That people that found the Course would try to run around and put the Course in hotel rooms because there's Bibles in there that we needed to put those in there. And Ken would say, this is not about fixing the outside. It's about fixing the inside. They'll tell you.
The only one that has to do the Course is me.
I have to accept the atonement myself. Yes.
Right.
And the rest will take care of itself. All right. Anybody have a quick question before we close? All right. I'm not hearing anybody, so we will.
I have one.
Yes, go ahead.
So I know this is kind of basic maybe for you guys, but
go for it. Anything, we've all been there and we're still there. Go ahead, Jay.
So we talk about separation. So I guess I have 2 questions on that. Why did we choose to separate, and why are we afraid of God's love?
Okay, good question, both of them. The reason why we chose to separate from the love of God is because God gave us all his attributes, and I'll use this chart real quick. He gave us all his attributes, which were love and peace, eternity, Christ, joy, innocence, and we were all the same. But he was sitting on the throne. He was the creator. We were the created. We wanted to be the creator. We wanted to be in charge. We wanted the one thing that God had that we didn't have. So we decided, we had this tiny mad idea, what we read today, of what, I wonder what it would be like if I could be the creator. At that moment, we had that experience of splintering off from God, okay? So if you think about, if there's two, one does not exist anymore. So in order for me to have separated from God, there's a me and a God, and God as oneness doesn't exist. So we believe we killed off the image of God to exist in duality. So now, after we had that thought, the Course explains that the answer was given, which was the Holy Spirit. We looked at its answer, and he basically said nothing happened. We looked at the answer, but we didn't believe the answer because we had this guilt, sin, and fear because we thought we did something kind of not nice. You know, killing off God would not be perceived to be a really nice thing. So we had this guilt, sin, and fear. And since the setup of the ego is always to project what's in our mind, we projected the guilt, sin, and fear on an image of God, not the real God, but our image of God, that he was sinful, guilty, and fearful, and kill or be killed. So we didn't trust him anymore. We didn't believe he was just love. So we're afraid of going back to love because we thought that love was going to do to us what we thought we did to it. So we chose this, forgot this existed. We're in this experience. We like the idea that we're separate and an individual, but we didn't like the idea that we were now experiencing guilt, sin, and fear. So we thought, well, I'm too afraid to go back to the love of God. What can we do? So then we projected into the world all these characters, me being the innocent one, and all the rest of them are wearing my cloak of guilt, sin, and fear. And we figured we got rid of the guilt, sin, and fear, but all we really did was got rid of it. All we did was project it out, and now we get to face it every day in the world, but we think it's coming from things outside of me instead of from my mind. So did I answer that for you?
So are we afraid of God's love because we're afraid he'll punish us?
Well, yes, because the Course even describes it as there's what is called the God of sickness, which is the God that we made that is just like our brothers. Okay, so you think, I'll bring out that chart next week. But think about, after we did this, the very first character we projected onto, our guilt, sin, and fear onto, was God. So we made of God something that God wasn't, because God as love remains, untouched, will never change. So the God that we made is a God that we don't trust. We can read the Bible. He's loving one minute. He's going to, create problems. The next minute, he's not a God of love. So we don't trust him. We don't want to go back to him. Why would I go back to a God that I think could harm me? So we set up this scenario where now I'm going to put that guilt, sin, and fear in my brother after I did it to my father, and I'm going to play that I'm an innocent victim. And even in our death, what people say, oh, God took Uncle Harry. Well, God didn't take Uncle Harry. Uncle Harry, according to the Course, really never existed. So how could God take something away that really didn't exist? And that's way too much information for today, but that's the general gist of it. We literally made in our mind a father that we no longer trusted because we projected our guilt, sin, and fear on our father. But our father is really just love. And any attribute or thought experience of God other than pure absolute love is not the love that we're really quenching for.
Okay.
Okay. All right. I'm going to stay on for a while after we close, and if anybody else wants to ask questions.
Thank you, Mary Ann. You've done a wonderful job.
Thank you, Bob.
As what you do all the time.
Thanks, Bob. I appreciate that.
Thank you.
You're so welcome. All right, so I'm going to mute everybody. We'll say the prayer, and then I'll stay online for a little while if anybody wants to talk. Okay, so everybody take a nice big deep breath and let it all go. Forgive us our illusions, Father, and help us to accept our true relationship with you, in which there are no illusions and where none can ever enter. Our holiness is yours. What can there be in us that needs forgiveness when yours is perfect? The sleep of forgetfulness is only the unwillingness to remember your forgiveness and your love. Let us not wander into temptation, for the temptation of the Son of God is not your will. And let us receive only what you have given, and accept but this into the minds which you created and which you love. Amen.
Thank you, Marianne. Thank you, everybody. This was a good class. We really, we put everything on the table today, and that's good.
Yeah, trying to get it out there, Marty.
Thank you.
Yeah, thank you. This was a good class. I enjoyed it.
Good.
Thank you.
Glad to hear. Glad to hear. Good to see you. All righty. So anybody wants to stay online and chit chat or have questions? There's Mr. Ben. Man with the hat.
Thanks, Marianne.
You're welcome, Michael. Good to see you.
I'll see you Tuesday.
All righty, sweetie. Talk to you then.
Okay.
Bye, Marianne. Bye. See you.
Good to
Thank
see
you.
So where are you hiking, Ben?
I'm at Lakewood Park.
Oh, really? Oh,
I was late to the meeting because I was having another sort of Course in Miracles conversation with a friend who I haven't talked with in a long time. So, but when I dropped in, I mean, just brilliant, powerful, muscular, beautiful truth that you deliver to us all the time. So thank you. It's just glorious. Thank you.
You're welcome.
I love the idea about the attraction points and just be noticing those.
Yeah, you know, there's actually a whole big section in the course about attraction, and it's like it's complicated for the ego mind to understand and accept. But he talks about the idea we're attracted to death. We think we're repelled by death, but we're really attracted to it. And you know, it's just so the opposite of the way it is experienced in our world. And we think we're attracted to pain, we're attracted to punishment, we're attracted to the killer be killed, and that whole dynamic. It's not as Marianne's experience sitting here as an individual, my experience, but that's really what's going on at a very deep level. And that's why we keep being, you know, perpetually being stuck in this deal.
Yes. I know you should be on CNN or we should be able to turn on our TV at any time and just see you delivering the news, because it's the only real information that any of us need. So this is what should be on TV all the time. So thank you.
Or at least, Marianne, the Bishop Sheen show.
Oh yeah,
Ben won't know what that is. Yeah, you should at least have a part on the Bishop Sheen show. That was a Catholic
yes,
program on Sunday afternoons. Yeah, my grandmother watched it. Yeah.
And I do remember a story of Bishop Sheen that apparently he used to go into underdeveloped countries and he would give them little statues or whatever depicting God's love and whatever. And he went to a leprosy colony. And when he went to hand one of the individuals a statue or whatever it was he normally gave out, he became very aware of his fear of, you know, touching them or being too close to them. And he knew that meant that he wasn't as healed as he would have liked to have been, which I thought was pretty interesting.
Right, that he was lacking in something. Right.
He was aware of it. Yes.
Did you
Yeah.
try calling me?
Well, that's what really.
Did you try calling me this last week?
Did I? No, I'm sorry. I was going to a couple times and then something came up and then the rest of the week was a wash, but I have not forgotten you. I will call.
Okay, I'm just making sure I didn't miss your call.
Yeah. Is there any good times or bad times to call that you're, top of your head?
After 7.
Okay. All right. Thank you. I will make my effort to do that this week. It was on my mind, but it didn't happen in my body.
Or, I mean, I'm available tomorrow.
Okay. All right. Great. Thank you. So you're back in Lakewood for a while there, Ben, or you just?
Oh, yeah, probably for the next few days.
Okay.
But yeah, it's just so refreshing to I just love your classes. It's just so refreshing to hear like the truth actually being spoken and not being watered down. I mean, so thank you.
You're welcome. You are welcome.
Thank you, Marianne, for
See you.
sharing your gifts, and thank you
Bye.
everybody for being here.
Yes.
See you next time.
Thank you.
Enjoy.
Bye.
Thank you.
Somebody playing outside.
Yeah. Yeah, he's playing outside. He's quite a lot younger than we are. We keep doing that writing class with him. It's very
right. Yes. Yeah. That's cool. I'm glad that you're sticking with that. That's cool. Quiet crew tonight, huh? And Andrea, I need to talk to you before Thursday, because the Thursday Toastmaster meeting number may have changed, so I have to make sure I check with you before Thursday. I'll write a note so I remember. I don't know if she's still there. So how's Miss Linda doing today? Good. Good. Did you ever get to talk to your landlord, or did that get put off?
He was supposed to call back in a couple days and find nothing. It'd be no news is good news, maybe.
There you go. And hold the Jello mold of you don't know what he's coming to talk about.
Yes.
Because if I hold that mold and say this is what it's going to be, then it'll end up being that for sure. Who knows what'll happen if you don't?
You're right. Absolutely. But good today, really good.
Yeah, good, good. I'm glad to hear it. Okay. Very good.
Okay. Well, I'm gonna go.
Okie dokie. We will see you soon, I hope.
Yep.
Okay, be well.
All right, enjoy.
Bye.
Bye, everybody.